All right. So today's question that I'll be answering came in, and the question was, would love to know more about desiccated pig thyroid and its benefits in people with no thyroid. So what is a natural desiccated thyroid hormone? It's a pig gland. And the idea is that this pig gland is going to give you T4 and T3. So it gives you the T4 that you still have to activate, and then it gives you the active form of T3. Now, why would this be beneficial? I'm going to start off as to like who it could benefit, why it could benefit, and then I'm going to end it with some of the issues that doctors have with this type of medication. So, going back to what I was explaining about T4 and T3. So, this is for those people that are healing after thyroidectomy, there's no thyroid, or if you do have a thyroid. The biggest thing to understand is that when you're producing thyroid hormone, a majority of what you're producing at the thyroid is T4. Always remember too, you're creating some T3. The thyroid does create some T3. And I think that's so intelligent that the body already knows, like, hey, this is going to take time to convert and activate. I'm going to make a faster form that's readily available, that's already activated, which is T3. That's the first thing. But the second thing is that T4 has to go to the liver. A majority of it is going to be converted and activated in the liver, and some of it's going to be in the gut, right? And then once you process that T4, you should have a sufficient amount of T3 that now that T3 is going to bind with the cell. And this is important because that T3 is what makes all the good things happen that the thyroid hormones do, like that your metabolism is good, that you're feeling energized, that you're healing, that you're turning over cells, that you're burning up glucose, releasing the right amount of insulin. Like T3 is it. But the problem with this is that a lot of people are finding that they are not efficient at converting T4 to T3. A lot of people don't know that they're not efficient at this because they're not getting a full thyroid lab. Okay. So if you're only getting TSH and T4 done and you're not looking at free T3 and reverse T3, you might not even know that you're not properly activating, converting that inactive thyroid, that T4. That's why, number one, it's really, really important to get your full thyroid wellness panel. And it's very important for you to know those numbers and to keep track of that. Now, I've seen this happen. Remember, I've been on this journey. Let me calculate. I always forget. Let's see, 19, 29. So like 18 years. I've been on this journey for 18 years, and I've seen the conversation change for the better, thankfully. But even when I was a patient, doctors would say, absolutely not. It's pig thyroid is so hard to control. You're not going to get on the right amount. The T3 can cause serious issues. And yeah, if the doctor's not going about it the right way. So going back to the problem is that if you are not converting it, activating T4, then you don't have the active thyroid hormone, free T3, to bind to your cell. And you have to have a healthy, clear liver. The systems within the liver have to be functioning optimally. You have to have good insulin levels. You have to have a good digestive tract for that to happen. Now, through the years, I have sat across so many men and women, back when I was also coaching men, right? Men and women, and I would ask them when they were on T4 only meds and we finally did their full labs, I would ask them, hey, did your doctor sit down and talk with you and talk about any, your blood sugar levels? Because blood sugar levels can affect fatty liver. It can affect the function of the liver. I've asked them if the doctor discussed with them their digestive system, like if they've had any digestive issues, and they're like, no, absolutely not. And I'm like, well, they put you on T4 only meds, which is dependent on these healthy systems. And it's understandable why they didn't. I don't like it, but it's because they're endocrinologists. They're focusing on the endocrine system. Like, why am I going to ask about your gut? That's the problem when you don't have a practitioner that's looking at your body as a whole, right? So we have liver issues. Again, I can say blood sugar issues. We can have methylation issues. You can have just really meds that you've been on. There's all these different things that can affect your liver. On top of that, a big problem I find is that when you're hypo or subclinically hypo for you, which means that you're within the range, but you're not optimal for you, your body goes hypo, right? So there's a possibility you're on T4 only meds, which is Synthroid or the generic form levothyroxine are the most popular ones, right? I like Cytomel. I'm not Cytomel. I like Tyrosint, but I'll mention that here in a second. But you're on these two things, which are T4 only meds. You have to get them activated. Like they have to be converted. So you've been on Synthroid and you're not converting it optimally. So you don't have optimal levels of T3. So you're suboptimal when it comes to your active T3, which means you can be in a hypothyroid state, which means that things slow down. You're not as optimal, which then turns around and affects even more your ability to convert and activate and clear out the thyroid hormone. So it's this vicious cycle that if for whatever reason you're not activating that T4 only med, and then you go hypo, now this hypo state, everything slows down, which will then affect your ability to convert it. It just gets worse and worse. It's like this vicious cycle. So what people have found, and doctors that actually listen to their patients, work with their patients, are willing to try different things, have found that patients can do well with some T4 and then have like helping out with adding in some T3 into the system since they're not converting and activating that T4. And that's why a lot of people can feel really, really well on that. Now, let me tell you this. Let me give this disclaimer. Like I've tried all the meds. I've been on Synthroid, levothyroxine, Cytomel, Armor, NP. I mean, it's 18 years on this journey. I've worked with people that do just fine on Synthroid. I've worked with people that do great on natural desiccated thyroid hormone. I cannot tell you what will work for your body. The only person that can tell you that is you. And the only way you can know is by trying something. And that's the problem, is that if you don't have a practitioner, a prescribing practitioner, a PP, I like to call them, that's willing to work with you and talk with you and listen and change the dosing till you find the right one for you, you'll never know, right? You'll never know, well, should I do natural desiccated thyroid hormone? Should I do Tyrosint and Cytomel? Like you have to have the opportunity to try T4, T3. So I mentioned some names there. Let me go ahead and tell you this. Natural desiccated thyroid hormone is pig hormone. And then you do have T4, T3, which is Tyrosint is one of the cleaner, like hardly any fillers, very absorbable for people that might have gut issues and absorption issues. And then Cytomel is, or liothyronine, which is its generic name, is T3 only. So a doctor can either give you natural desiccated thyroid hormone, which is the pig hormone, and it's just combo T4, T3 together, or your doctor can work with T4 and T3 separately, which is going to be two different meds, so that, you know, they can tweak, like maybe you need a little bit more T4 and a little bit less T3, or maybe up that T3 and bring down that T4. So those are your options in regards to T4, T3 combo. Now, let me give you some things that I've seen throughout the years and things that I've read. So again, going back to the fact that like I've seen this conversation shift. Oh my gosh, it was nearly impossible 15 years ago to find a doctor that would prescribe NDT. In fact, I remember looking at the studies 15 years ago, and like I remember finding studies that'd be like, no, the gold standard is just testing TSH. The gold standard is Synthroid. And if the patient, like I remember reading like a conclusion to this, you know, discussion about T4 or T3, like NDT. And they're like, no, well, like T4 should be fine. And pretty much it was like, if your patient says they have symptoms, it's probably because they're not taking it the right way. Like pretty much the study was saying, well, it's your patient's fault because this should work. And now, thankfully, I've seen a lot of shift in that conversation that no, actually, if you're having gut issues, you might not be absorbing the meds, right? If you are not converting it, like there's all these things, like I said, that can affect why Synthroid or levothyroxine T4 only meds might not be the best choice for you. Now, one thing I did read is that doctors don't like to utilize NDT because the ratios of T4 to T3 within, you know, the NDT is not the same as what we make. And another reason is because they think that T3 can be really difficult to dose. It can make you hyper. It can give you like heart palpitations and all these horrible things, which is true. If you go too high, too fast, or you're taking too much for your body. Yeah, that's true. That's why if you work in a way where you're dosing, tracking the patient, tracking the lab work, testing free T3, you could avoid that. That's what I have seen. Now, reminder, guys, I don't prescribe medication. Don't go off and be like, Dr. Rebecca says, get on T3 and take this much. No, what I'm sharing with you is what I have seen over and over, not only with my health, but with those that I've worked with, especially post-thyroidectomy and people that really, really, really need thyroid meds when they have a dysfunctional thyroid, right? So the idea is what I've found is that there's no linear conversion. You cannot just go, I'm taking this much of Synthroid. This is how much I should take of Armor. There isn't. You can start at a lower doses of Armor Thyroid, and then you have to increase and test until you get to a point where you feel well on it. Okay. That's really, really important to understand. I had a woman that I was working with, and she wanted to get on natural desiccated thyroid hormone. And she had all these red flags in her labs. So I said, all right, we'll talk with your doctor. She will have to prescribe it for you. She will have to test. So at this point, this woman was on wellness kind of coaching with me. So I wasn't seeing her as regularly. When I finally met up with her again, she shared this story with me. And she was like, my doctor just was like, this is ridiculous. There's no reason for you to be on this. Like, she had symptoms that she was not optimal, my coaching client. But the doctor was like, this is not going to work. Fine, I'll put you on it. And what ended up happening is that she put her on the lowest dose possible. And then at the 4 to 6 week appointment, she increased it very minimally, which I had never seen a prescribing doctor do. Like, I don't know what her deal was. I feel like she wanted to prove a point to my coaching client. Then retested her again. So I think they did 2 or 3 follow-up appointments, and each time increased it so low. And during this time, my coaching client, she's telling her doctor, like, hey, all these symptoms are coming back. I'm achy, I'm fatigued, my hair's falling out, and all the symptoms of not being on enough thyroid meds. Mind you, she does not have a thyroid. And she told her doctor this. The doctor, instead of listening and saying, oh my gosh, we need to maybe up this a little bit more, there's room here to get these levels higher up, the doctor was just like, well, let's try, bumped it up just a little bit. The next appointment, things got worse. Well, things were worse in the sense of like she still had the symptoms and she was still living with it. But she kind of saw a little bit of improvement. Like, okay, it's worse because she's been dealing with these symptoms for like 90 days. But oh my gosh, like I feel like maybe we might be reaching a turning point. But when she told her doctor that she was still feeling bad, her doctor told her, see, I told you, natural desiccated thyroid hormone, it doesn't work. It's not enough for you, all of this stuff. And it made her believe that it wasn't possible to utilize natural desiccated thyroid hormone and she needed to be on T4. When we met, we analyzed her blood work. We found out she was not on enough. I gave her guidance on how to find a new practitioner who would listen to her. She changed practitioners. Within the first visit, that prescribing practitioner, this new doctor, increased it significantly for her. And it was a night and day difference. And it was so shocking to me. I wish I could say that was a one-time experience that I've seen with my coaching clients, but it's not. I see a lot of doctors that are like, see, it doesn't work. I had someone, I think she was in New Zealand, who doctor again, they call it like whole thyroid there. That was, again, she was kind of in the wellness part. So I was walking her through understanding her labs. And a couple of months, again, they were just telling her like, look, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. Look at how dysregulated your hormones are. And I looked at months of blood work and I was like, Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was sitting there. I'll be honest with you. And I told her this. I was like, I don't know what is going on. Your T3 is so, or like, I think is her T3 was high, her T4 was low. It made no sense. She had hypo symptoms. I was like, honestly, I would have to agree, I guess. And then I stopped and I asked her, I was like, wait a minute, did you take your whole thyroid, your, natural desiccated thyroid hormone the morning of your test? And she's like, yes, I did. And I was like, if you guys have listened to anything I've put out there, I say, do not take anything the morning of your lab work. And she was shocked. And she was like, well, no one told me that. My doctors didn't tell me that. And I was like, okay, go this week. Do not take anything and get some blood work done. When she did, her blood work came back. She just wasn't on enough of on the natural desiccated thyroid hormone. What was happening is when you take it, especially if you take it and then a couple hours later you're getting blood work done, what you're going to see because of the half-life, especially of T3. T3 hours, right? It's spiking, your body's processing it. And so what was happening is, and I agree with the doctors saying they didn't want to increase her natural desiccated thyroid hormone, her whole thyroid, because the T3 was high. And yeah, high T3, when your body can't handle it or it's too much, is going to cause like heart palpitations. You're going to feel hot. You're going to feel more anxious. So understandably, the doctors didn't want to increase it, but the mistake they made was not warning her to not get blood work done right after taking the meds. So when we had her wait, to take the meds after her blood work, she wasn't on enough. Boom. Now they were able to dose her to where she needed to be, and it was a completely different experience. So you just got to be aware that if you are seeing a high reverse T3, you're seeing low free T3, that you might be, if you have blood sugar issues, PCOS, high insulin, pre-diabetic metabolic syndrome, just really inflamed, really high cholesterol, high C-reactive protein, iron issues, if you have some of these things going on, that might apply to you. You might do well on natural desiccated thyroid hormone, but you have to be aware that the dosing has to be right. You only get to your amount of dose by getting on it, staying on it, then retesting and then tracking your symptoms and then increasing appropriately to where your blood work is. Now, I did read beforehand, like, again, I wanted to look at like, okay, what are doctors saying? And I read this article coming out of the UK about how like the ratio T4 to T3 is much higher in natural desiccated thyroid hormone than, um, you know, what your thyroid would normally make. But then again, we are ignoring the fact that our bodies are all so different. Our absorption rate, what's happening in our gut, if our gut is absorbing it, if it's utilizing it, do we have the right bacteria to process it? Our liver, our gallbladder, like we are ignoring the fact that not only do different people absorb these meds differently, but how they utilize it, how they convert it. They also ignore the fact that we have backup systems, that we need some reverse T3. We need that reverse T3 to go up. If we have a little bit too much T4 during, one season and we have a little bit too much T3, our bodies can learn how to adapt to that. And I hate it because when I read articles like that, it reminds me of how I felt as a patient. I felt like, I'm this separate machine that I got to go see a GI doctor for my gut issues. I got to see my OBGYN because my period is gone. I got to see an endocrinologist for my thyroid meds when it was all connected. It was post thyroidectomy. I didn't have a thyroid. I wasn't optimal with my T3. And it just reminds me that if we're not careful, the medical system can make us feel not only like we're this broken down machine and, we're dependent on them to tell us to help us be well. And, these systems work separately when it's not that way at all. Our body is intelligent and knows what to do and how to process it. But when we've been bombarded, when we haven't received the right treatment, then we need to pivot and we need to be able to adapt to what we need, me, myself. So again, I have tried all the meds. I've done Armour, I've done Synthroid, levothyroxine, I'm currently on Tyrosine and Cytomel because my body responds differently, especially like postpartum. This is my third baby. So I had to switch. My body switches. One of my most popular videos on YouTube is talking about how when you're chronically utilizing thyroid meds, you can come to a point where your body either gets used to it, has this resistance to it, and it's time to change. And you need to have the ability, like the idea that we have this vital organ that can adapt to stressors, that can adapt to different scenarios, that can release more hormone, that can decrease more hormone, that can conserve energy, that can use up a lot of energy. The fact that we think we can cut out this intelligent, powerful thing inside of our body and then be on one same pill for the rest of our lives is just insane to me. It makes no, like, what? You're telling me that it's only Synthroid for 20 or 30 years? You don't even know that. And that's one thing to always remember, especially post-thyroidectomy, is that there aren't long-term studies on quality of life without the thyroid. Like, we're talking about 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Like, you are it. You are N=1. You are the person that can really explain what's going on internally and if something's working for you or not. And, the last thing I'll say about this is, like, I hear people like, well, I go to the best doctor. I used to have people tell me this if they found me online and ask questions, or I get added to a group. They're like, well, I go to the best doctor. I go to, like, I don't know, Mayo. I'm number one doctor in, the nation. Let me tell you something. You just need a doctor that's willing to listen to you, to respect you, and work with you, right? Because no one's going to care more about your health than you. I asked this in my Healing After Thyroidectomy Facebook group, and a majority of the people that commented, they saw significant changes and feeling different and feeling better with OBGYNs, with their general practitioner, with a nurse practitioner. Like, you need a doctor just because your doctor is quote unquote number one, right? They're really great at cutting at a thyroid. I went to a great surgeon when I was 19, but when it was time to really optimize my health, I'm not going to a great surgeon. I'm going to someone that's going to work together with me, that's going to respect the fact that I do read, that I do know. When I was 20 years old, I was very knowledgeable because I had to be, because I was tired of feeling like crap. So in the end, if your doctor can be number one, but if he was taught in a certain school, taught by a certain professor that this is the only thing that's possible, that's the only thing he's going to do. You can go 2 doors down and you can see a different doctor, and she happened to go to a professor that is more conservative, or go to a school that's more conservative, and she's experimented with being more conservative about things, or she was taught by a pharmaceutical rep more about NDT and she understands it better. You can get different type of care from this other practitioner, and there's nothing wrong with that. First thing I had to do when I was, 20, 21 years old is fire my doctor. What does that mean? I just didn't go back. I didn't go in and say anything to my doctor. I just went to a guy that, like, listened to me, and we talked together, and it was great. Like, I said, hey, I want to try Armor. And he's like, all right, let's do it. We'd get labs. I mean, even got to the point where the office would just call me. Did you see your labs? I did. What do you think? They would just tell me over the phone. It was great. That's what you need. So natural desiccated thyroid hormone, would it work for you? Maybe. What do your full labs look like? What's your free T3? What's your reverse T3? What's your fasting insulin? What's your glucose? I do have that ebook that you could always go to my website, drrebeccawarren.com, and get my free ebook about labs. And then go from there, right? It could. And if it does work for you, it's a game changer. It's a game changer, especially post-thyroidectomy. So remember, it can work for you. It's a combo of T4 to T3. You don't want to take it before your labs. You want to not increase too much, right? Because you can feel that if you do, but you want to get on it, and then you're going to have to, mess with it a little bit to get to where you need to go. Now, I'm wrapping up with this. The doors to my Thyroid Inner Circle are open right now. right? So the community has been very small, very intimate. So far up until this point, but we're opening the doors for anyone that wants to join. Now, the purpose of my membership, I'm bringing it up because sometimes, let me go back. The reason why I created this is because I wish I had a community that I could plug into every time I would go to my doctor's office, every time I felt like something was off. Why is my menstrual cycle going cuckoo? Is that associated with my thyroid hormones? Do these labs look okay? Should I get on iron? Like, how could that help me? Like, I wanted to create a community that walks alongside you as you go deeper and deeper in this health journey, as you get better and better, and you keep on optimizing your health. Well, how should I eat if I have hypothyroidism? How should I eat if I have autoimmune thyroiditis? How should I eat? I just had my thyroid removed. That's the goal of my Thyroid Inner Circle. And the doors are open right now. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I feel overwhelmed, like going to my doctor's office and always saying like, I'd like to try something different. I can walk, we walk through that. We discuss that in this. Again, you can find more information about it. The doors will only be open here for a couple of weeks. We're closing it down because we're starting some challenges and some new stuff coming up in my membership group. I get messages all the time on Instagram, on Facebook, YouTube. Are you seeing patients right now? Right now, this is how you're able to work with me in this incredible group community setting. So go to drrebeccawarren.com and you can find out more about it there. Just go thyroidinnercircle.com. I'll see you guys next time.